I didn't turn my microphone on. Yes, I am. Good morning, Pastor Florin.
Good morning,
Dimitri,
Becca.
are you there too?
Yes, I am. Hello, everybody.
Good morning, Dimitri.
Good morning, Teacher Becca.
Morning.
What are you doing today, Dimitri?
Well, I'm trying to lift this rock with my mind, but it's not working.
Dimitri, you do know that it's impossible to lift things without your hands, right?
Well, yes, Teacher Becca, I know that, but stopping the sun is impossible too, and Joshua did it. Isn't that what we read in today's story?
Well, you're correct about the fact that the sun stood still, but it wasn't really anything Joshua did. Why don't we read today's story from Joshua 9 through 10 and find out what actually happened?
I think that's a great idea, Teacher Becca.
So, Dimitri, do you remember what we learned last week about Achan and the city of Ai? Achan was an Israelite who chose to disobey God's very clear instructions. He kept some valuable things from Jericho, even though he was told not to go near those things. Because of his sin, the Israelites lost a pretty big battle with the city of Ai. When Joshua chose to obey God, God was no longer angry. And once again, God blessed his people.
I remember. The next time the Israelites fought the men of Ai, God was with the Israelites, and they won the battle.
You're right. God fought for them, just like our memory verse says. The Lord himself will fight for you.
Just still calm. Exodus 14:14. Thank you.
Good job, Dimitri. Well, the Bible tells us that when the kings of the other cities in Canaan heard how the Israelites had destroyed Ai and Jericho, they came together to make war against Joshua and the Israelites. However, there was one city that did not want to go to war with them. It was the city of Gibeon. Gibeon was not far from Ai. It was a large city, larger than Ai, and the men of Gibeon were great fighters. Still, the Gibeonites were afraid of the Israelites because they had heard that God had instructed his people to destroy all of the people in the land.
I think I would be pretty scared if I was one of the people in Gibeon too. With God on their side, they always win the battle.
I know what you mean, Dimitri. Listen to the instructions God had given to his people about going to war. As far as the cities inside the land of Canaan, God said,
"Kill everything in their cities that breathes. Completely destroy them. Wipe out the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hivites, and Jebusites. That's what the Lord your God commanded you to do. If you don't destroy them, they'll teach you to follow all the things the Lord hates. He hates the way they worship their gods. If you do these things, you will sin against the Lord your God."
Exactly. And as far as the cities outside of the land of Canaan, God said,
"Suppose you march up to attack a city. Before you attack it, offer peace to its people. Suppose they accept your offer and open their gates. Then force all the people in the city to be your slaves. They will have to work for you. That's how you must treat all of the cities that are far away from you. Their cities don't belong to the nations. They are nearby."
So, what was God's rule for war for the cities inside the land of Canaan?
Destroy all the people in the land.
And why did he say that?
Because they worship false gods, and they would teach the Israelites to follow false gods.
Correct. And what was his rule for war with the cities that were far away?
Offer them peace. If they accepted, they would be slaves.
So, Dimitri, is the city of Gibeon inside the land of Canaan?
Yes.
Exactly. So the Gibeonites had heard these rules. They knew that if the Israelites obeyed God, they were doomed. They believed that God was powerful enough to do what he said he would do. So, they came up with a plan to trick Joshua and the Israelites. They sent a group of men to Joshua. But first, they put on worn-out clothes. They wore worn-out sandals. They put worn-out sacks on their donkeys. They even brought dried out, moldy bread with them. The Gibeonites made it look like they had been traveling for a really long time from a very far away place. Actually, the trip was only 2 or 3 days downhill.
And the Israelites believed that they had come from really far away?
Well, the Israelites weren't sure if they should believe the Gibeonites. Joshua asked them where they were from. The Gibeonites said they had come from a very distant city. They said they had come because they heard reports of the mighty hand of God. They had heard what he had done for the Israelites in Egypt and in the land of Canaan. Then they really got deceptive. They showed them the moldy bread, and they said it had still been warm when they left for their trip. They said that their clothes and sandals were all worn out because their trip was so long.
And Joshua couldn't call the FBI to see if these people were who they said they were. He couldn't sit down at his computer and do a Google search on distant lands, or how long it takes for fresh bread to get moldy.
That's true, Dimitri. But what could Joshua have done?
Ask God.
Exactly. But in Joshua 9, we find out what they actually decided to do.
The men of Israel looked over the supplies those men had brought, but they didn't ask the Lord what they should do.
Uh-oh, we see it coming. Joshua made a peace treaty with the men. He made an oath that they could live. All of the Israelite leaders agreed and made an oath in the name of the Lord that all of the people could live. 3 days later, the Israelites found out that the Gibeonites lived near them. They were pretty angry with their own leaders for making a peace treaty with them. But they didn't want to make God angry by going back on their oath, so they didn't go to war against them. Instead, they made them their slaves. Now, this may seem like a good solution, but it wasn't what God had commanded. God told the Israelites to destroy all the people in the land of Canaan because if they lived, the Israelites would eventually follow their false gods and sin against God.
Well, what happened next?
Well, when the king of Jerusalem, Adoni-Zedek, found out that the Israelites had made a treaty with Gibeon, he got pretty nervous. After all, the Israelites had completely destroyed Ai, so he asked 5 other kings to join him and attack Gibeon. The armies of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon all joined together and attacked Gibeon.
The men of Gibeon quickly sent messages to Joshua at his camp in Gilgal. Don't abandon your servants now, they pleaded. Come at once. Save us. Help us. For all the Amorite kings who live in the hill country have joined forces to attack us.
The Gibeonites were probably pretty worried about the fact that 6 armies were going to attack them.
So, Joshua and his entire army, including his best warriors, left Gilgal and set out for Gibeon. Do not be afraid of them, the Lord said to Joshua, for I have given you victory over them. Not a single one of them will be able to stand up to you.
Joshua and his army marched uphill all night long. It was a 25-mile march in the cover of night.
25 miles? Phew, that would take forever.
Well, not quite forever. They arrived early in the morning, and they took the kings by surprise. God gave the Israelites great victory in fighting by confusing the enemy armies. Then, as the armies tried to run, God hurled large hailstones down at them. This killed even more of the enemy soldiers than those who died while battling. Then, Joshua asked for something very unusual. He asked for the sun to stand still in the sky so that the Israelites would have more time to battle.
The sun stopped in the middle of the sky. It didn't go down for about a full day. There has never been a day like it before or since. It was a day when the Lord listened to mere man. You can be sure that the Lord was fighting for Israel.
Therefore, darkness did not fall until Joshua and the Israelites destroyed all their enemies. God had promised victory, and God always keeps his promises.
Wow, Teacher Becca! Making the sun stand still seems so impossible, but God did it.
He sure did, Dimitri. God cared about Joshua and the Israelites, and he granted Joshua's request, even though it seemed impossible. Nothing's impossible for God to do.
Teacher Becca, Sometimes there are things in my life that feel impossible too. And not just lifting things with my mind. Sometimes I have a really hard time not being scared when there's so much going on in this world that I don't understand.
Life is filled with some pretty scary things, Dimitri. But we can remember that with God on our side, we can overcome the hard things we face. God can give you courage when you're scared. Why don't you pray and ask Him for courage even when you don't understand what's happening?
That's a good idea, Teacher Becca. I think I'm going to go do that right now. Thank you.
You're welcome, Dimitri. See you later.